this is Janet Morana, Executive Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to the program. You wonder, why do I have these books in front of me that say the Miracle Book? Well, that's because it's a brand new book out this month. And guess what? It was written by a very, very, very dear friend of mine and Father Pavone's, Anthony DeStefano. He's been part of our ministry for decades, but he's a very talented author. He's written dozens and dozens of children's and adult books. But this latest miracle book, boy, I want to ask him about the questions, and I bet you would too. So joining me now is the author of the miracle book, Anthony DeStefano. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you for that great send-up, Janet. I love it. Thank you.
All right.
You always make me feel
so
like
now
a
come
big
on.
Star.
What?
You always make me feel like a big star.
Well, you are. You've written all these books.
All righty.
All right. So first of all, I just want to know, which have you written more of, children's books or adult books? How's the count going?
Children's books, about 16, 17 children's books, and this is my 7th book for adults. It's a lot easier to write children's books and a lot more fun.
Well, and just if people are curious to look at your whole collection of books, where can they go?
I have a website, www.anthonydestefano.com, if they don't mind my long Italian name. I don't sell books on that website, but they could see everything I've written and a little bit about me and upcoming works on that website.
And then they could go to our Priests for Life store, prolifeproducts.org, and order the books through there, because you've been very generous to the ministry and donating books to us, and we appreciate that. But let's talk about this miracle book, okay? What inspired you to write a book about miracles?
Well, this book is a practical guide to praying for a miracle. I wrote it because I think at some point, everybody needs a miracle. You know, the miracle might have to do with your health or your finances or your family, or just feelings of anxiety and hopelessness. You know, regardless of your level of religious faith, or even if you have no faith at all, there comes a time in life when all of us experience the need for supernatural help. So many people out there are suffering badly, but they don't know how to go about asking God for help other than begging him. You know, they beg him, they plead, they negotiate, they promise they'll do absolutely anything, including changing all their sinful ways, if only God will grant them this one request. Then if God doesn't answer their prayer in the way they want, you know, they lose faith, or they get angry with God, or they sink into despair. There must be a better way. There has to be a method of praying for a miracle that guarantees the best possible chance of God saying yes to us, or at least results in God giving us an answer to prayer that imparts a peace and satisfies our soul. I did many years of research, and I read every single book on miracles out there. And I hope I succeeded in finding that better way. This book explains what I discovered.
Wow. All right, but, you know, come on. People are very skeptical out there. They say, oh, come on, DeStefano, you know, you're just trying to play into people's fears and superstitions. And, you know, you're just trying to sell them on miracles and get your book. So, you know, is that it? What about those skeptical people? What do you have to say to them?
Well, I understand that skepticism. I really do. I grew up a skeptical New Yorker like you. I'm from Brooklyn, you know,
right.
And in fact, I lived many years as an agnostic, even though I was raised a Catholic. I've always, you know, this is true, Janet. I've always been allergic to anything superstitious. So I don't fall easily for spiritual gimmicks. And that's why I don't promise any magic formulas in this book. In fact, I go out of my way to say prayer isn't a vending machine. You don't put in a specific request and a miracle automatically pops out like a candy bar. That's not the way God works. However, and this is a big however, it is a biblical fact that miracles are part of our faith. Jesus performed miracles all the time. And more than that, he made bold promises about miracles. He said, ask and you shall receive, and nothing will be impossible for you if you believe. And whatever you ask in my name, I will do it. These aren't vague, wishy-washy statements. They're clear assurances that God can and will perform the miraculous for his followers. And those promises don't have any expiration date. So the bottom line is, millions and millions of people believe in miracles, not because they're fools, not because they're superstitious, not because they're members of a cult, but because they believe in their religion, or because they've seen things happen with their own eyes that can't be explained. So I'm not selling anything in this book. There are no gimmicks in this book, but I do offer solid, uh, biblically based, theologically sound principles that I believe can dramatically increase your chances of obtaining a miracle. I'm not asking readers to just take my word for anything. My invitation is simply for people to be open. There's no need to check your brains at the door, but at the same time, don't slam the door shut either. Give God a chance to surprise you.
All right. Well, in the beginning of the book, you kind of start off and you kind of say, well, people want to say, do miracles really happen every day, often? Or is this just like winning the lottery, a 1 in a million chance of getting a miracle happen to you? Can you explain that?
Yeah, well, it does seem like a kind of a riddle, doesn't it? People say all the time that miracles happen every day. And yet, most of us know from experience that when we pray for a miracle, we usually don't get one. So which statement is true? And I think there are three fundamental ways of looking at the problem. Some Christians, mainly our Protestant brothers and sisters, some of them anyway, think that all we need to obtain a miracle is to have more faith, and to fully exercise the authority and dominion that was given to us by Christ. Other very fervent believers say that we can have all the faith in the world and still be refused a miracle for the simple reason that what we ask for is not in line with the will of God. A third view, and the thesis of my book, is that there's really no riddle at all, that obtaining a miracle is both easy and difficult because it involves a kind of mysterious divine paradox. A paradox is a statement that seems contradictory at first, but in reality leads us to a deeper understanding of the truth. In this case, the truth is that if you use the strict definition of a miracle, which is a supernatural intervention by God in the world that defies all natural laws, like the parting of the Red Sea, or an overnight disappearance of a malignant tumor without any treatment, then yes, those miracles are very rare. But if we're talking about miracles in a more general way, broadly defined as an extraordinary answer to prayer that goes against the laws of statistics, but unfolds through perfectly natural means, like, for instance, someone who doesn't have any money and who's about to lose his home prays to God for a miracle and then suddenly receives the exact amount he needs through an inheritance or some other kind of gift. Those kind of crazy, quote unquote, coincidences happen all the time. So it's really not a riddle or a contradiction to say that miracles are rare but also frequent. It just depends on your definition of a miracle. And in my book, I talk about both types.
Right. Okay, but doesn't God really know what we need? So can't we just say, God help me? Why, especially you wrote prayers in the book, showing us how to pray for the miracle, and you leave a moment where we add what we're asking for. Why do we have to get so specific with God when he kind of knows our thoughts and our needs and everything else? Why are you telling us in your prayers throughout the book to be very specific to God about what we want?
Well, that's a great question. But the truth is, there's a genuine value in being specific in our prayers. Precision in prayer shows God that we trust him with the intimate details of our lives, just as we would a close friend. If our goal as a Christian is to have a personal relationship with the Lord, we have to share those kinds of details. That's what relationship is all about, sharing. Also, when we make specific requests, we're acknowledging that God isn't just the Lord of the church we belong to. As Father Frank says all the time, he's the Lord of our families. He's the Lord of our finances. He's the Lord of our vacations. He's the Lord of our bedrooms. When we're precise in our prayers, we're acknowledging the fact that God doesn't just view our lives from a distance, like the old song says, but that he's right here, right now. He's deeply involved, and he cares about everything we care about, including the minutia of our lives. But at the same time, I want to say it's and I talk about this in a book. We simultaneously have to be completely open to God's will, and the reason is that we don't always know what's truly best for us, even when we're praying with great sincerity. In fact, many times we don't really even know what we want. Our desires may seem real to us, but they're always wrapped up in our emotions, and they're influenced by fear and pride and pain and ambition. Openness to God's will shows that we trust God because he can see the big picture, he can see the future, and he wants what's best for us, not just in the moment, but forever. So when you embrace this miracle paradox of by being very precise in our prayer, but yet radically open to God's providence, all the channels of grace-filled divine possibility are opened up to you because of your willingness to give God the maximum amount of faith, hope, love, surrender. God will always find a way to answer you in a manner that fulfills your deepest desires, whether or not you immediately realize it. And this is exactly the way Jesus prayed, isn't it? In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus asked, Father, if it's possible, let this cup uh, pass from me. That's a very specific request. But then he added, but not my will, but your will.
All right. So, sometimes we may not get what we want, right? Because God knows that we're asking for a certain miracle, but he knows that's not the right thing for us at that time, correct? Right?
Yes, yes, that's right. But it's more than just about needs versus wants. It's not just, God doesn't just give us what we need, uh, because that sort of makes God sound a little pedantic. He makes him seem sort of like a doctor with a bad bedside manner who's only interested in
Right.
test results. It's sort of like in my book, I use the example of what if you're a child on a hot summer day and you ask your father for some ice cream, and he says to you, well, that's not what you need, Johnny. You need something healthy. So let me give you this serving of steamed spinach. Is that who God is? No, no, it's more than that. It's about God looking deep into our souls and seeing what we really truly want. Most times we don't even know what we want when we say things, but God is able to look past our words into our soul and see what our true desires are. And those are the prayers, the miracles that he decides to grant or not grant.
Well, and then, throughout the book, you're walking us down the path here about asking for miracles and all the things you've been saying so far. But at the end, there's the final prayer for the miracles. And you kind of say that you think we're on this cusp or this age of like a whole bunch of miracles are going to just happen. Why do you think, like, suddenly in our world right now, are we just getting ready for this whole cloudburst of miracles to happen?
Well, first of all, you're right. At the end of the book, I do sort of put everything together in one miracle prayer. It's a distillation of everything that's in the book, and I do that because it's easier for the reader to have one prayer that they could print out, scan, save on their smartphone, and then pray anytime, anywhere. Uh, Regarding a new age of miracles, you first have to understand about the original age of miracles that occurred 2,000 years ago during the early apostolic age and during the time of the fathers of the church. Back then, bona fide miracles weren't just the exception to the rule. They happened all the time. They were a constant part of life. Uh, Not only Jesus, but the apostles and many of the early Christian leaders, they healed the sick, they raised the dead, they cast demons out as a normal part of their ministry. The miracles they performed were a tremendous blessing from God that were meant to validate the gospel message and draw more people to the faith. That's why the early church was able to grow so rapidly, even in the face of terrible persecution. Now, 2,000 years later, yes, I say that we're on the verge of a new age of miracles for very similar reasons. Christianity, especially in the West, is once again being persecuted, not with lions and gladiators, but with ridicule, censorship, legal threats, cancel culture, intense social pressure and propaganda from the media, from Hollywood, the academic world, the political world. We all know that the secular culture is blatantly, openly hostile to basic Christian teachings, labeling them as bigoted, outdated, and hateful. And the attacks on core Christian values like marriage, and you know this better than anybody, the attacks on marriage, the family, and on life itself are just relentless. That's why we do what we do at Priests for Life. So in this toxic environment, my fear is that words alone may not be enough to bring people back to the faith. We need something more. something miraculous. To me, it makes perfect sense that God would accompany a renewed effort at evangelization during this time of oppression with a fresh wave of miracles. A new age of miracles wouldn't just console the faithful during a difficult time, it would help us to evangelize, to break through hardened hearts, to cut through cynicism, and to show the world once again that God is real, that He's powerful, and that His love is calling us to conversion.
Well, you might be right, Anthony, because when you think about it, we just got Pope Leo the 14th elected, an American Pope. Come on. You and I were over in Rome plenty of times over the past few decades in all kinds of Vatican meetings. No one ever in their wildest dreams thought we would ever have an American Pope. And poof, look what the Holy Spirit did. So I can kind of think that we're at the beginning of a new age here, to just have an American Pope like that just plucked out of nowhere. Someone who was kind of insignificant. No one really knew much about him. Even the cardinals themselves, not everyone knew him. So maybe you're right, Anthony, that we are on this cusp of a new bunch of things that are going to happen to us because we desperately need it.
And that's why people shouldn't be shy about asking for miracles during this time of persecution. They should ask for as many miracles as they can. They should be bold. Whatever you need, ask God for, and give Him a chance to usher in this new age of miracles. He may just be waiting for us to ask Him.
Right. Well, just a final thought here. Right now, some people might be listening to you and I, and they're feeling down, desperate, fearful. Oh my gosh, whatever's happening in their life just seems like I'm never going to get out of this situation. It's desperate. And then what can you say to them that they should somehow have hope that a miracle could happen no matter how desperate their situation is right now?
Well, that's a great question. All I can say is if you're listening right now and you desperately need a miracle, first of all, you've got to remember that you're not alone. God sees you. He knows exactly what you're going through. He's known from all eternity that you would need a miracle at this moment in time. And He knows that you'd be tuning into this program with Jan and Morana. So God cares about you more than you can possibly know. Keeping that in mind, I would say that there are 5 things you should do. And I hope I have time to go through these 5 things quickly. First, whenever you're experiencing anxiety, you've got to take a breath and try to be calm and get centered and recollect yourself. As the Psalms say, be still and know that I am God. Try to put your emotions on the side for a moment. You don't have to feel faith, think faith. Make a decisive act of the will to trust God and that He has the power and the desire to help you. Even if you're anxious and in emotional turmoil, say with St. Faustina, Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, I trust in you. Say it over and over again as many times as you need to. Second, take whatever action you need to take. Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, the best thing to do is keep going. Don't allow anxiety to paralyze you. If you're sick, speak to the doctor. If you have legal troubles, speak to your lawyer. If you got money troubles, speak to your accountant. Have that difficult conversation you've been putting off. Make that annoying phone call that you need to make. In other words, take a step, any step. It doesn't have to be big. God doesn't expect perfection. He knows you're scared, and He wants you to take some kind of action to show you to trust Him. Third, and this is what we were talking about before the program started, you've got to get the community of believers on your side. Make use of the power of intercessory prayer. Don't keep your need for a miracle a secret. Tell as many people as you can. Go on social media. Ask your friends to pray for you. You don't have to divulge what your specific problem is. Just ask people to pray for your special intention. God will know what that intention is when they pray. And don't forget to ask the angels and the saints to pray for you too. They're very close to God. Their prayers are very powerful, especially Our Lady. For goodness sake, if you have a problem, get Our Lady involved. Remember, Mary isn't just the mother of God, she's the mother of miracles, so ask her for help. Fourth, as we were saying before, be radically open to God's will. Tell Him exactly what you want, be specific, be clear and precise, but then echo the words of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Say, not my will, but yours be done. You have to be truly receptive to whatever God wants to do. That kind of surrender isn't weakness, it's spiritual power. It opens up all the channels of divine grace to you. It gives God permission to act in unexpected and incredibly miraculous ways to grant your desires. Finally, fifth, when you pray for your specific intention, and this is something that Father Frank talked to me a lot while I was writing this book. When you pray for your intention, be sure to pray also for God's greater glory. This is so important. Yes, it's a given that all our prayers for miracles express our personal desires, but their primary purpose should always be to reveal God's majesty to the world. In other words, when you ask for a miracle, you should simultaneously ask God to use your answered prayer to deepen the faith of those around you, to make them realize that God is responsible for the great blessing you're receiving. When you seek God's glory in your prayers, you acknowledge that your requests aren't solely about fulfilling selfish desires, but about spreading faith in God to everyone. And this reflects not only a humble disposition, but a mature faith that's more worthy and deserving of a miracle. And also, I'm not plugging my book, but I would urge you to go out if you can and get the Miracle Book. I worked for 2 years on this book. I put my whole heart and soul into it, and I really think that it's going to help you.
Well, I think it will too. And, here's a little miracle I know here at Priest for Life we've all been praying for. And I bet you a lot of people around the world have been praying. And if it happens, it will be true a miracle that will shake everyone up. And that is for Pope Leo XIV to reinstate Father Pavone and give him back his collar. Right, Anthony? Now, that would be a big miracle, don't you think? That would get everyone all stirred?
It's miraculous, but it certainly shouldn't be a miracle because there was a grave injustice that was done to him. And we know that the injustice has to be, the wrong has to be righted. And that's what we're working for.
Absolutely.
I'm
going to hold up your book. And of course, I have a bunch of them here in front of me because here at Priest for Life, you were very generous and sent us a whole bunch of these books, and we want to get them to you, brothers and sisters, because when you order this book at our online store at prolifeproducts.org, it's like getting a donation to our ministry that we really could use right now. So see, you order the book, you're helping Priest for Life, and you're also helping yourself to find out about how to pray for miracles. When we think of our lives, we all need a miracle in our lives. And so, Anthony, this is really a great book. I love it. I started reading it, and I'm going to continue to read it, especially because, as you know, I'm going to have surgery next week, so I'll be praying for a miracle on that one. Don't you know?
You're going to get it. It's not going to be a problem. It's going to go nice and easy.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
I have to say, your book has been endorsed by so many people in the media, and I'm proud to say that I've been granted the first interview of you about the Miracle Book. So that's very special.
First one. Book's not even out yet. It comes out June 17th, but you can get it. Priest for Life family can get it earlier.
That's right. We get the scoop here at Priest for Life. So thanks, Anthony. God bless you. And I hope this gets to the New York Times bestseller list. Now that would be a miracle.
My prayer is that whoever reads the book gets the miracle they want, or at least gets a powerful answer to prayer. That's what I'm praying for. I'm not praying for the book's success. I'm praying that the people who read the book get their miracle.
Okay. Well, thanks, Anthony. God bless.
God bless you.
Well, brothers and sisters, we're going to show you right now. Here's how to order it. We got a great little thing here with a QR code. And this is what I want you to do right now is as soon as this program is over, there it is, QR code. All you got to do is get your cell phone up now. Okay, take the picture of the QR code. That will take you right to the page where you can order the book today. It's a great read. Schools are out, colleges are finished. Why not read the Miracle Book at the beach or the lake? It's a great read, easy read, and do it today. This is Janet Morana, Executive Director of Priest for Life. Thank you for joining me, and let's all pray for those miracles.